Hello, everyone, and welcome to Why Green Building Certifications Are More Important Than Ever. My name is Terry Gorski, and I'm an ESG manager at Gobi, a consultants company. So with the growing importance of ESG to real estate investors, we're seeing portfolio owners working hard to demonstrate the sustainability and health and wellness considerations that they're implementing into all levels of planning, whether designing new properties or planning for older properties in their portfolios. ESG, therefore, has significantly increased demand for green building certifications. In today's webinar, we'll discuss the increasing importance of green building certifications in ESG implementation efforts, and we'll review strategies and best practices for meeting new expectations of investors, occupants, and the public to demonstrate integrated approaches that reduce climate impacts and enhance healthy living. So we're proud to host this webinar in partnership with GBI, the Green Building Initiative. GBI makes aspirational goals achievable through user-friendly tools built upon comprehensive standards supported by outstanding staff and expert assessors. GBI has third-party certified thousands of buildings across North America, and its Green Globes and Guiding Principles compliance programs support every building situation, from individual buildings with sole owners through some of the largest corporate and government portfolio owners in the world, including the Departments of Defense in both the US and Canada. So before we get started, a few housekeeping items. First, this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be distributed to everyone after the session. Second, the webinar should run for about 45 minutes, and then we'll save 5 to 10 minutes or so for questions at the end. If you have a question at any point during the webinar, you can submit it on the GoToWebinar control panel in the questions section. We'll attempt to answer as many questions as we can, but if we don't get to all of them, members of our teams will follow up after the webinar to provide answers. Third, in the handout section of the GoToWebinar control panel, there's a short slide deck that you can download and read over for some additional information. So now that we've covered those, let's introduce today's speakers. Thomas Stanchuk, Director of Sustainability at Stoneweg. Thomas Stanchuk is a seasoned commercial real estate professional with more than 20 years of diverse experience. He began his career with his current employer, Stoneweg US, in 2017 as an asset manager, where he was responsible for overseeing operations, maximizing occupancy, and maintaining budgets for 17 assets in the Midwest region. In 2019, he was promoted to senior asset manager, assuming operational responsibility for more than 50% of the total AUMs, where his operational leadership was hugely impactful in Stoneweg US's ability to deliver healthy returns to its investors that year. In 2020, Tom began focusing his efforts on implementing various energy efficient and innovative practices to his portfolio by introducing water conservation, LED lighting retrofits, and effective recycling methods that would not only incorporate sustainability, but also provide key value add for residents. A few facts about Stoneweg. Founded in 2016, headquartered in St. Petersburg, Florida, $1.9 billion of assets under management, 15,000 units, and 55 assets in 15 states. It's affiliated with Stoneweg SA, a Swiss-based real estate investment company. Stoneweg US serves as the exclusive US investment manager of Varia US Properties AG, a Swiss publicly traded multifamily real estate fund. Stoneweg US also partners with US and international equity investors to acquire and develop multifamily assets. Stoneweg is committed to sustainability and has developed an ESG platform. Their approach to ESG is integrated and triple bottom line. And Vicki Warden, President and CEO of the Green Building Initiative. Vicki Warden is a thought leader and accomplished executive who has dedicated her career to promoting sustainability, health and wellness, and resilience. She serves as president and CEO of the Green Building Initiative, an international nonprofit organization dedicated to reducing climate impacts by improving the built environment. As a former sustainability consultant and entrepreneur, she has supported numerous international organizations and industries improve their approaches to sustainability, from solar and rainwater to furniture and composites. Today, Vicki has helped to grow GBI into a thriving organization that is known for its ability to deliver cost and time-effective roadmaps and certification options for design and operations teams alike. GBI is also known for its commitment to collaboration, and Vicki leverages GBI's inclusive global network of experts to advance education and tools that help teams integrate sustainability, net zero, health and wellness, and resilience objectives throughout some of North America's largest real estate portfolios. Through GBI's Green Globes and Federal Guiding Principles compliance programs, the organization has certified almost 500 million square feet of space in North America and beyond. And I'm Terry Gorski. So with that, let's get started. We all know that there's an uptick in building certifications since the beginning of the pandemic. Vicki, why is this happening?
Well, Terry, thanks so much. Great question, and I'm really happy to be here today with you and with Tom. And I think that our topic today of green building and reducing climate impacts is especially important today, as we all have in our hearts and minds the people in the Ukraine and the conflict that's playing out there, potentially largely related to energy issues. And so appreciate that everyone is also somewhat divided today in their thought processes. But to answer that question, what is driving the uptick in green building certification? I think there are some really big picture issues that have played out over the last 2 years. The first one being that there's really been a crescendo around environmental social governance. And I like to think of ESG as sustainability, social responsibility, and transparency in governance. And with the Biden administration being a very climate-focused administration, we see that coinciding with a marketplace that for the last 2 decades has been tackling how to reduce climate impacts, and really the having the federal government and the private sector hitting this crescendo at the same time has all investors really looking at what can they do with their portfolios to integrate ESG, sustainability, social considerations, and transparency throughout that portfolio. And green building certification plays right into that. And in terms of ESG reporting, there are ways to recognize green building certification in your ESG reporting to give investors greater confidence, and also the occupants and residents greater confidence. And so Green Globes has really seen growth related to ESG and being a Tier 1 certification through GRESB. The couple other things that I think are really important to mention too are the financial incentives that exist. And that has been driven, and just to use an example, in the multifamily sector, which Tom is a part of, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have been really big drivers of having property owners address the low-hanging fruit of water and energy efficiency, and then to validate the changes that they're making through green building certification. We've been a big part of those processes and helping to guide multifamily owners, some of which are really new to sustainability green building certification, through that process in a time and cost-effective way, because they're all racing to get projects validated and have it coincide with their loan programs and their rate locks. And so we've been really effective at that. And you mentioned I think the pandemic, and that has really been an incredible bright light shown on so many gaps in our marketplace, so many really important gaps. But one of the things I think it did in terms of driving certification was having folks really take a look at the holistic needs of our portfolios and their roles in the community. And we were fortunate in looking deeply within Green Globes when the pandemic hit, that it really was very up to date. And we updated through the American National Standards Institute consensus process. So it's updated every 2 years. So we already reflected a lot of the trade-offs and considerations when you consider energy and ventilation, and those types of flexibility and best practice guidance were already built into Green Globes. So those things I think helped, as well as the idea that green building certification is holistic, and we overlap a lot with health and wellness already, and resilience as well. And so with that, we've definitely seen a really big uptake in use of GBI and Green Globes in general. And I think green building certification is going to continue to play a really big role in helping to validate the integration of ESG throughout portfolios. So thanks for that question.
Thank you. Yeah, at Gobi, we're also hearing from building owners and managers that leasing spaces in buildings has gotten a lot more competitive. So, you know, due to the pandemic, there are now so many vacant spaces, causing more tenant companies to go virtual as more people work from home. They tell us that their tenants are not renewing their leases, or they're downsizing their square footage. So building certifications are a way for buildings to differentiate themselves from other buildings, especially because the pandemic has put an emphasis on green building practices, indoor air quality, ventilation, sanitation, and so forth. So building occupants are just getting more conscious of energy and water usage as ESG concepts grow in importance. Building certifications help assure the occupants that the building is operating as it was originally designed to operate, and that helps to reduce turnover, decreases operational costs, and increases asset value. So our certifications team works with building management teams every day, helping them through various certifications. So we hear a lot, and property managers tell us that there's pressure on them from both ownership and tenants to get certified or recertified, and if they were previously certified at a high level, to stay certified at that level or higher if possible.
Yeah.
Moving on, Tom, buildings and portfolios are becoming more competitive. Can you share some examples you're seeing from your perspective?
Hi, Terry. Thanks for having me here today, and I'm really happy to be here with Vicki. I've been working with her a while and have become a good friend. So I think that certifications it's becoming more competitive. I guess number one, asset managers are being asked a lot more about the property's impact on the climate, or their fund's impact on the climate. And certifications act, you know, as a mechanism. You know, they measure, they create a goal, that sort of thing, and they create a framework for people for the property teams and the asset managers, you know, the ones involved in operating the properties, to kind of have a set of parameters to make it practical and a way to operate to achieve these goals. So, you know, we work with the utility management company in order to collect all this data and then begin to understand our impact. We're reporting this to Energy Star's portfolio manager, and that connects to feeding into certifications. And putting all that in place, you know, I just said it in probably under 10 seconds, but it's actually quite complicated and time consuming. But you need to start, because the sooner you start, the sooner these things are in place, the easier it becomes over time. But it is sort of a big, if you have a portfolio of any size, you know, if you're dealing with, you know, a couple of properties, it's much different. Our portfolio, like you mentioned, is 55 communities. When you're talking about 15,000 units that are spread out over 15 states, that are they all have their nuances, and they're all working with different utility companies. I would say that it's crucial to have a utility management company as a partner in this, because trying to do it on your own and organize it is very difficult. But all of this needs to be put into place because, yesterday I was completing, a questionnaire from one of our investors for our largest fund about what we're doing relative to ESG, what type of certifications we're seeking, what our energy use intensity is, that kind of stuff. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into answering these questions. And if you're not able to answer them, they may choose to invest with someone else. So, we see it, even though I'm a director of sustainability, I very much still consider myself, an asset manager, because that's what our firm does. And I just help the portfolio from the sustainability and ESG aspect, but it's supporting the overall goal of the company to grow and to be prosperous. And in order to do so, people are learning quite quickly, especially because it's not just like in the US with the Biden administration, but globally it's changed. A lot of our investment dollars come from Europe or South America. People all over the globe are asking these questions. In addition, we do resident satisfaction surveys. More than 50% of the prospects or the residents that we have in our communities are either, they're in terms of building certifications like green certifications or sustainability practices. It's a high priority or very high priority. So people start making decisions about where they're going to live or where they're going to stay based on how you're operating your property, what practices you have in place. And, when I go on site and, do site visits and walk with people that are conducting operations, I would go to, where the trash gets put away and how this is being handled. And, tell them this is the residents' experience. This is an opportunity for you to demonstrate that you care about the community, care about the environment, that make it something that this is a part of everyday life, and make it something that it's an opportunity to create an impression on someone. And I really do believe that those sorts of things are an aspect of certification models that have a lot of value that's kind of intangible. You mentioned like Fannie and Freddie, and we've got, I believe we have 8 green loans, and we've acquired those over the last 5 years, and you get a discount on the interest rate that leads to basically better cash flow. That interest rate difference can mean the difference between a property, succeeding and making plan and falling short. So, the interest rate is very attractive. And then, in my experience, especially Fannie Mae, they try to set this up in a way that is not really burdensome on the asset manager or the property team. So, they've kind of put their own mechanisms in place to collect the utility data, to report to Energy Star portfolio manager. Some of the first certifications we did through Energy Star were our green loan properties. So they kind of set that subset of our portfolio up in order for us to get those first achievements. And I'll tell you that the site teams were very excited because they were involved in all these retrofits and changes over, when we bought the property and what the lender was requiring. And it was really cool to be able to share with them, graphics for social media, and I sent them certificates, told them order a plaque. We did pictures with their asset manager and that sort of thing, and celebrated it. Actually, we believe in rewarding that success too, so they get the actual certificate and the door clings, and they get excited about it. So, me asking and asking and asking and then complaining when it's not happening fast enough about toilet changes or putting on aerators. Like at the end, they get to celebrate that they've made an accomplishment, we're able to achieve it. And then, we can go, like with Energy Star, we can go year after year and we can show that, we're keeping pace, or we're not, with Green Globes and the work I've done with GBI. We've put processes into place to keep going after this and to keep maintaining it.
Well, thank you. So there is a strong emphasis on health and well-being in buildings now. So will this ever slow down? And what are the trends that you're seeing from your perspective? Vicki, would you like to start, and then I'll ask Tom?
Yeah, sure. I just think Tom did such a great job of describing ESG integration with his example
Well,
there.
You taught me that, Vicki.
Well, we've collaborated, but when it comes to health and wellness, I think that's also a really big part of thinking about our approach to health and wellness. And it is one of the things about ESG when we think about the S and the social piece, and just what we've all learned from the pandemic, is that the lives of people that are in and around our buildings are the #1 priority. And Stoneweg has just done a great job of saying, enhancing lives is our #1 priority. And more, I mean, and I'm sure, Terry, you'll speak to this with phone calls you're getting at Gobi, but the way that the conversations are going with portfolio owners today is, what can I do to help assure the people that are coming in and out of my buildings, the people that live in my buildings, the people that occupy my buildings, that we're doing everything that we possibly can to support their health and comfort and productivity while they're here. And so I feel like there's always a bit of a pendulum in every marketplace, and the pandemic could prove out to be a pendulum in terms of our attention being so specifically and directly focused on health and wellness issues today. However, they're not going to go away, because it's part of this overall recognition that we have come to, with all of these factors culminating at the same time, that we have to look holistically at what we can do to enhance people's lives. And so I would argue that green building certification has always had a big component of health and wellness within it. And Green Globes aligns really well against Harvard's 9 foundations of healthy buildings, against the other certifications and programs that have emerged that focus specifically on health and wellness. And that's all embedded within a Green Globe certification. So we like to think that we're always promoting sustainability, health and wellness, resilience when we promote an approach that encourages green building certification. So I say it's here to stay, and I say it's going to be Green Globe's certification and third-party verification of health and wellness issues is going to be a big part of the conversation for the foreseeable future.
Thank you, Vicki. Tom, will this slow down, and what trends are you seeing?
So, no, I think that it's really started to take off more and more rapidly. So, the green certifications and, this sort of thing has been all around for a long time, but there is certainly so much now. Like today, I mentioned the filling out this form yesterday, but this is sort of a repeated thing that I do, like with questionnaires with investors, and the frequency that it's occurring now, and how often we're being asked these questions. So if the investment dollars, raising capital is so kind of paying so close attention to this now, they're not going to waste their time and just drop it and say, oh, tomorrow it's not important. It's more and more, I believe it'll become really part of routine operations, where people today they're very, very interested in what's happening with their dollars, how their dollars are being earned. worked in real estate my whole life. I was, raised on it on a small scale and kind of went into managing office, and I've worked in other aspects of commercial real estate. And I believe in the best way to retain the value, and we're charged with protecting the value of an asset, is putting it to its highest and best use, running it efficiently and well. You talk about it's unlikely that you are going to receive building certifications for properties that are dysfunctional. And really, when we acquire properties, often, or anybody acquires properties, often part of the underwriting and the investment is improving the overall operations, the condition, the efficiency of it. And all those things are consistent with seeking the certifications. I think that it kind of begs the question, why aren't you doing this if you're already investing the time and effort and money? Why aren't you just taking the certifications as well? You get a halo with this, with your investors, with the site teams, with your residents. You're able to then start doing things like Vicki mentioned GREPS and that sort of benchmarking. It kind of gains momentum as you keep going. So I think that it's going to become more and more routine. It's still fairly new to a lot of people. They're learning the language of this. I can tell you that I thought I knew a lot about it. In the last couple of years, I've learned an enormous amount. Right now I'm spending time learning about TCFD requirements and doing certifications with climate, but all of this stuff is related. And I believe that there's a lot of opportunity for real estate professionals to get themselves educated, learn how to do these certifications, and it'll help with your career. It's job security, because that's where it's going.
Thank you, and I agree. Now that health and the indoor environment is in the news constantly, it's on people's minds when they walk into a building or into small rooms and elevators with other people. So what we're seeing are buildings incorporating green building policies into their best management practices, like stepping up cleaning and setting building automation systems to bring in more outdoor air volume and just focusing on indoor air quality. And a certification shows everyone that they do that.
Yeah, agreed.
Vicki, why green globes? How do you differentiate from other building certifications?
Well, thanks for that great question. I would like to say, first of all, that GBI completely and totally supports our open market. And we think that there is a great benefit to all users, portfolio owners, public, private sector, when there are multiple certifications available in the market. And so Green Globes we've been happy to see a lot of interest in Green Globes in terms of adding it as a tool in the toolkits of a number of large REITs, and we work a lot with different federal agencies and different parts of the private sector. But I would say that what we hear consistently when folks pick up the phone and call is that they're trying to implement green building certification in a larger portion of their portfolio. And so Green Globes helps significantly with that because it's very time and cost effective. We also are incredibly flexible. And so if you're a REIT and you've got multiple building types, or you're a corporate portfolio owner and you're in all different regions and climates, the 1,000-point system that we have includes criteria that is specific to different building types, as well as flexible enough to allow you to determine that something is not applicable, for instance, if you're in a region that doesn't allow, for instance, or doesn't provide the necessity for cooling. So those points in our system don't count against you. So overall, I'd say, what we hear when people are talking about the buzz about Green Globes is that it is extremely comprehensive. So again, taking it through that American National Standards process means that it correlates, and we have crosswalks that show how it does against all sorts of major market indicators in terms of the technical content within it. But it's very easy to implement in the way that we deliver it in an interactive web-based format. One of the really big things too that we hear is that teams, even if they've done a lot of projects, they really benefit from the collaboration that comes from third-party assessors that are licensed architects and engineers that are independent, and that's something that GBI offers. We pair up every project team with an individual third-party assessor, and that person is accessible to them throughout the certification process. And so if they have questions that come up along the way, how does this work? Will I get credit for this? You know, we've got this problem, we've got a space issue, the criteria doesn't quite apply. How will that be interpreted? All of those things are worked out through conversation and interaction. And so the reports that we get back from our users are that Green Globes is extremely collaborative, and that our culture is based on successful implementation of your sustainability goals. And so our assessors really consider themselves coaches as part of that process. And all of that contributes to that time and cost-effective nature. If Tom is someone who's using the Green Globe system, you know, has individuals that he can reach out to assist him all throughout the process, then that makes it much more cost-effective for him. The other thing I would say too is that Green Globes, we recently just updated both new construction 2021 through the ANSI process, and then we launched existing buildings 2021. And so those programs reflect a lot of the latest thinking. So our EB 2021 has a whole section on ESG management. We incorporate resilience. We have a lot of overlap, of course, with health and wellness issues. And then we also have a CO2 equivalent pathway in our programs. And so there's a lot there with Green Globes, and combine that with the ease of use. And I think that has really contributed to a lot of buzz about how it can be rolled out through a portfolio as opposed to just, you know, certifying a headquarters building.
Thank you. Tom, you're working with GBI and integrating ESG throughout your portfolio. What can you tell us about that process, and where does Green Globe certification fit into your planning?
Sure. So we engaged with GBI we engaged with them kind of officially at the beginning of 2021, and worked through kind of a rigorous process throughout the year that I think has been, you know, the outcome has been kind of extraordinarily successful. At some points it was a little bit painful for me because I was doing a few things, and so I'm trying to wear a lot of hats, but you know, my job title changed, I think, as an outcome of that. So I got kind of moved on to specifically focusing on ESG and sustainability topics. You know, when we first engaged with GBI, you know, I think that the value of engaging a firm like them, you know, and you need to kind of do your vetting and make sure that you actually talk to other groups that they've worked with, and verify, do your due diligence and verify that they've been successful. So, you know, I can say these things and talk about my success, and if you engage with a firm like GBI or another firm for ESG consulting and integrating this, or however you choose to do this with your business, you know, talk to a few people face to face, and, you know, ask them how their experience went, you know, what they got out of it. So the reason to do that is it's so important to engage with somebody that has the right experience and knows how to, you know, will help you steer clear of avoiding mistakes. You know, that's the whole purpose of engaging any expertise is there's green certifications, these sorts of best practices relative to ESG, they've been around for a long time. So there are systems that are in place and best practices, and that's what that expertise is in place to help you do, is to take the path that is going to get you the shortest path to success. So, you know, a lot of people call it a journey, but to me, it's more like an evolution, because things kind of unfold and grow, and there are at some points unexpected value created out of things that you really didn't think at the beginning that there would be a valuable product created for some in some unexpected areas. So the process we went through is, you know, they started with engaging our executive team, key kind of operations people in our firm, the board, and figuring out, you know, what we wanted out of this and what our priorities were. And then we moved into a phase of outlining from a high level objectives. And then we moved into another phase of starting to get more specific with strategy and defining that and how it works within the way our businesses are organized, and then setting goals and KPIs. And then we worked on creating a document that is consistent with best practices that will allow you to achieve certifications like Green Globes or other types of certifications. So we wrote an ESG playbook for asset managers that they can refer to and share with site teams about what our expectations are as owners and how our properties will be operated. And it's really, you know, it's really important that all of these things kind of, it's not, though it's my job, it's not my job in the sense of I don't, it kind of permeates operations, and everybody, my job is to kind of inform and support and educate, you know. So it's important that you engage with all of your corporate team. I engage the accountants in it, you know, like I engage everybody in it as best I can, because I think that you have to build an excitement and a momentum around it. If you know, it's not worth doing if you're not going to do it well and you're not going to excel at it. And I think that it can make a lot of difference in an organization to really embrace something like that, because you know, there's plenty of evidence that it leads to improved valuations, improved revenue, higher retention, you know, happier residents, and more efficient sites are a lot less stress and easier to operate. You know, yeah, there's some work, you know, through the process of educating yourself and learning how to make things work, because every company is going to operate a little bit differently, and every portfolio is, the makeup is different, so the challenges will be different. But you know, the Green Globe certification is an aspect of that whole evolution, because you know, we kind of made an arbitrary commitment in the beginning. You know, we're going to certify 10% of our portfolio, and you know, we certified in the first year. We certified, you know, 9% of our portfolio just through Energy Star certifications, and I you know, explained earlier, sharing those with the site teams, celebrating those with their asset managers and the site teams. And you know, I left when I got the certificates in the mail from the EPA. I put them on our CEO's chair, so told them to open them up. So there's an excitement about the tangible aspect of it, and then you know, he's able to go back to the board of you know, our funds and the investors in our funds and talk about these achievements. So to me, it's, the certifications are kind of relative to kind of creating the playbook and that sort of thing. It it maintains that momentum because they want to keep achieving it. When you measure something and you're able to do it relative to a peer group and you're able to see where you stand, it motivates people to improve, and it makes you understand that what you're doing is right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Vicki, how does Green Globe certification support asset manager like Stoneleg in pursuit of GRES and Fannie Mae green financing loans? And actually, we have a question here that is right along these lines as well. Would the team be able to talk a little bit more about the advantages for borrowers to agreeing to these green improvement programs? How can these programs impact total loan proceeds? And what level of reductions to interest rates are borrowers typically seeing in terms of basis points? I don't know if you can get into all of that right now, but question is in line with what the next topic was.
I'll tell you the basis point is 1/4 to 0.5% often. I mean, so it's, it can make the difference often.
Yeah, and I am definitely not qualified to talk about the loan reductions to much extent, but when we do hear from owners about the dollars issue, I mean, sometimes they will share that they've been able to save over $250,000 over the life of a loan, and that of course depends on the time, the lender, and what program they're using. But just to talk a little bit about GRES, I wanted to come back to what Tom was saying about how he essentially started with a top-down commitment, and his give Patrick Richard a lot of credit as CEO for making a commitment, having the boards be fully involved in making the ESG decision, and then working that through a process that results in changes and upgrades happening at the portfolio and the facility level. So it's really this challenge of getting all people in the process to buy in, and it's fun to hear Tom talk about how he reinforces that with certificates and rewards and incentives and celebration. Because all of that is important. And with our mission at GBI on reducing climate impacts by improving the built environment, we really are focused on that top-down commitment traveling right out to the property level. And so every time Tom's ESG integration effort results in a building certification, that certification validates something that has happened at a property level that feeds up into the criteria that are used within schemes like GRESB. And GRESB is a fantastic ESG benchmarking. It's the global ESG benchmarking program for real assets. We're industry partners of them, and they review green building certifications, and Green Globes is one of the certifications that has been considered a tier 1 certification. And so we're all Energy Star partners, and you should pursue Energy Star certification. And if you do that, you get 2 points within the GRES system, for instance, in the performance section. And if you pursue Green Globe certification, because it's more holistic as a sustainability, health and wellness, and resilience certification, you can earn 8 points. And then how you progress certification throughout your portfolio can help to increase your rank a couple of slides in the handouts. So I encourage you all to take a look at that help explain how the GRESB system works and includes a peer evaluation component. So that's where those who are able to achieve certification and validate more of what's happening at that property level across the portfolio, where they can increase their rank. And that translates up to a greater sense of confidence for investors to invest or continue to invest in their organizations.
All right, thank you. And our last question, what advice do you have for participants of this webinar that are at the beginning of this journey? Tom, would you like to start?
So I think that probably the first thing that you're going to want to do, and it really depends on kind of the size and makeup of your portfolio, because if you're concerned with reporting one building, you know, some of this kind of stuff you could manage yourself. But you know, our portfolio is made up of, you know, today 55 properties, but you know, properties are bought and sold, and so you kind of, there's a lot of management with particularly the utilities that's quite challenging. If I could go back a couple of years to kind of the beginning of us trying to get a handle on our utility data collection, I would centralize. All of our properties are operated by third parties, so we don't do any self-management. So, you know, the AP system, you know, it's rolled up on a balance sheet level. It's not, I'm not part of the actual operating account check writing. You know, if you can imagine, there's a separation where, you know, we own the bank accounts, but we don't write the checks. So there's just GL level information that I don't easily have access to when it's spread across, say, 11 different management companies. And today it's 15 states, but you know, it was upwards probably closer to 20 2 years ago, and we kind of shift regionally as well. So it's not atypical for funds like ours to kind of transform as they grow over time. The strategy, that's a closer line with strategy over time. So using a utility services manager, utility bill pay manager, centralizing RUBS, requiring your management companies to cooperate with that single entity will make your life a lot easier. Because if you're trying to combine, you know, let's be modest and say it's hundreds, but it's probably more, getting closer to 1,000 streams of utility data at any given time to capture the consumption, to capture the spend, all of that. When you're doing it on that scale, it takes a lot of expertise relative to that particular industry, and it takes a lot of expertise relative to technology to do it right. You know, Gobi is a technology company built around this, right? So it's obvious that people, there's a market and there's a need for that sort of expertise and specialization, because you're not born with it. You're not going to learn it on your own. You know, it's something that you need. That's what I would tell people when they're starting out to set up. So they set up that mechanism. You know, we did an MSA with a utility manager, and that's how we've begun to actually have useful insights and actual data and information about what our buildings are consuming utility-wise. That's converted into, like, you know, energy use intensity and GHG and all that kind of stuff. You can't get anywhere close to making any sense of that if you don't go to the experts first on it. And then making sure that that all of your sites are reporting to Energy Star's portfolio manager, and you can do that yourself. You know, if you've got a smaller portfolio, but if it's a, you know, larger portfolio, you would want to engage your utility services manager to do that as well. And you'll need access to a lot of information outside of your water bill. You know, it's specific information that is found kind of, you know, for real estate owners. It's found mostly in the due diligence reports that are created during that time. So your appraisals and your property condition assessments and things like that, you'll find all of this sort of information about the number of buildings, the gross square footage versus everybody seems to know in real estate what their rent roll square footage is, what their rentable square footage is, but gross square footage, I don't think anybody's cared a whole lot. And it's a really important number because that's actually probably what your bills are supporting. And then the next evolution of that is going to getting whole building data. And that's another specialization that you need to go to a utility services manager for to do it efficiently.
Yeah.
Thank you. Vicki, your advice?
I think that there are a lot of folks out there like Tom who sort of have had the ESG green building certification, figure out our strategy, land in their laps. And so there are a lot of folks struggling with what do I do first? And I think my best advice would be to have a lot of conversations. And so we certainly want to encourage you to reach out to GBI, look at membership. Our network includes a lot of folks who have experience with certifying and assessing and improving, hundreds of different buildings in the same building type across all of the building types. And so through our, one-on-one conversations, we've been able to speed up the process of connecting people to people that can help them. And I'd like to say that Tom is sitting here because of great connections that we helped to make for him. And that includes Conservice in Gobi, and there's just a lot of collaboration and trying to figure out each of the pieces of the puzzle. And if you can assemble the right team, either that's internal resources or external resources, to help you start to figure out how to put those pieces of the puzzle in the right order to get where you want to be, which is to improve your portfolio over time, validate it, and have that report up into your larger ESG strategy, then you'll be a little bit ahead of the game. It's just a matter of identifying all those pieces and getting people to help you put them in the right order. But I did want to also leave with the idea that GBI is going to be coming out with, we're working on it this year, 6-module education program on ESG for the real estate sector. And we'd love to talk to folks who are interested in that program. And then we look forward to a lot of different collaboration coming out of this webinar today. We certainly look forward to working with Gobi and Conservice and Tom and others. Anyone who's participating today who wants to have a follow-up conversation, definitely reach out to any of us.
Thank you. Yeah, my advice also would be to consider obtaining green building certifications as the best management strategy to help your buildings compete in today's market. It'll help your buildings stand out, attract and retain high quality tenants. ESG has just become so especially important to tenants and potential tenants these days. So I would say think critically about what you're already doing and what areas need attention. And like Tom said, a good first step for the building level and portfolio is benchmarking your energy and water performance in EPA's Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Plus, a higher Energy Star rating means more points when you pursue a green building certification. Another step might be to work with waste haulers to determine your landfill waste and recycling diversion rates and work on improvements there. Higher diversion rates means more points there as well. So that basically concludes our panel discussion. Let me see if I can look at a few questions here that we haven't really touched on yet. There's a comment, COVID and climate change are the key drivers to upgrade building performance. Green labels help organize the information. That's,
yeah. Roadmap, we provide a roadmap through Green Globes.
Does the label help attract new tenants for owners that did not have a label before?
I would say yes. I mean, it's a differentiator. It's I look at it as, another type of amenity. It's a lot of them come with a halo and a branding that you can put on your front door, on your collateral. I guess that shows how old I am. I think people are handing out collateral. I mean, on your website, yeah, it's valuable then.
Let's see, a question, kind of already covered this. Do all green loan programs have an end goal of making a property green certified, or does Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae offer any type of reduced scope green loan programs where obvious energy saving opportunities are addressed but don't necessarily result in properties becoming green certified?
So my understanding of this is that the offerings are probably going to expand, but the green loans don't require for you to be certified. It requires for you to benchmark. So just to measure, which means reporting to EPA's Energy Star portfolio manager. They're not requiring for you to hit a certain efficiency level. It's measured from 0 to 100. And they're not saying that you need to be over 75. But they are requiring that you report because they have improvement, specific improvement, criteria as far as you're going to install Energy Star thermostats or appliances or aerators, that kind of thing, water sense aerators, and they want to measure it because we can send them the receipts, they can come look at one, but the results are what gets reported on your utility bill and through portfolio manager.
Yeah, and Terry, I would just add that as we hear from folks that are pursuing green financing for multifamily, it's which program works the best for this particular property. And so Fannie Mae, for instance, might have 3 different pathways, one of which is green building certification. And it really just depends on the level of what's happened already at that property, which pathway they decide to pursue. So we are one of those pathways.
Yes, I want to clarify that there are some that you just benchmark, and then there are some that require a certification, but they're not always this equal and the same.
Yep.
Okay, I think we've addressed the other questions. If we haven't, we'll reach out to those that have submitted those questions. So that concludes our webinar. That's all we have time for today. Feel free to reach out to any of us if you'd like to continue the conversation. And keep an eye out for the webinar deck and the recording, which will be emailed to you shortly. Thank you for joining us.